Chapter 18. Quite unfairly, the battle alarm sounded right in the middle of dessert. For a split second, Wedge considered shoveling the last 3 bites of his citrus snow cake into his mouth at once, decided running to the landing bays with a full mouth lacked the proper dignity, and regretfully left the cake orphaned on the mess room table. Starfighter wings, check in, the Peregrine's fighter coordinator was calling as Wedge slid on his flight helmet and dropped into the cockpit of his X-Wing. Rogue Squadron, where are you? Right here, Paris, Wedge said, glancing around to confirm that the rest of the squadron was indeed present in the bay. What's going on? Don't know for sure, Paris growled. All I know is that we just got a panic call from the Sifcrick system. General Bella Bliss talked to them for maybe 5 minutes, and suddenly we're getting ready to fly. Okay, you show green. Launch when ready. Copy. Okay, rogues, let's go. 20 seconds later, they were in space, driving forward along the Peregrine's flank toward Vanguard position. I don't suppose this might be a drill, Rogue 6 suggested on their private frequency. Well, if it is, the General owes me another dessert, Rogue 12 put in. Anyone been following local politics in this sector? I have, a little, Rogue 9 said grimly. My father-in-law's got some interests here. 10-1, it's the Freslicks. They've been feuding with the Sifcrees ever since we chased the Empire out of the area. Maybe they finally decided to finish it, Rogue 2 suggested. With General Bella Bliss and a New Republic task force right next door, Rogue 6 put in incredulously. What are they using for brains? Groat cheese? All ships, this is General Bella Bliss, the General's voice came on the command frequency, cutting off the conversation. We've just been informed that a strong Freslick force is moving on the Sifcree homeworld of Sifcrick. As that system is only a few minutes away, we've been asked to go take a look. Terrific, Wedge thought sourly as he glanced back over the New Republic task force. 1 Katana Fleet dreadnought, 2 Nebulon B escort frigates, and 3 starfighter squadrons. And they were supposed to take on a force big enough to attack a whole planet? Bella Bliss might have been reading his mind. Obviously, we're not planning to go head-to-head with them, he continued. In fact, we're going to have to be very careful we don't overstep our legal bounds here. That's all I can say until we get there and assess the situation. Commander Paris? All ships check in, Paris ordered. Prepare to jump to lightspeed on my mark. What does he mean, legal bounds? Rogue 6 asked as the fleet began its check-in. My guess is that whoever called Bella Bliss wasn't someone who could officially ask for New Republic assistance, Wedge told him. Some minor bureaucrat, maybe just a rattled space traffic controller. If we don't have an official request... Rogue Squadron, go, Paris ordered. Copy, Wedge said. He pulled back on the hyperdrive lever, squinted as the star lines flared, and they were off. It was a 12-minute flight to the Sifcrick system. Alone in the solitude of hyperspace, he spent those minutes running a final check on the X-Wing systems and armaments, and wondering how the legendary General Garm Bella Bliss was going to pull this one off. The timer clicked down towards 0. Settling himself, Wedge pushed the lever back. The star lines flared again. He blinked. What in space? On the Rogue's private channel, somebody snorted. You must be joking, Rogue 2 said. That is an invasion fleet? Wedge looked at his tactical readout, shaking his head in silent agreement. 2 40-year-old Kruk battle wagons, 5 Lancer-class frigates probably half that age, and maybe 30 modern Jumpers custom pursuit ships. So much for the big bad threat, Rogue 8 commented contemptuously. We could probably chase them out of here all by ourselves. I don't know, Rogue 11 said. Someone seems plenty worried about them. Take a look at the far planetary rim. Must be 20 freighters scurrying for cover. And another 100 who aren't going to make it, Rogue 7 pointed out. There, to port side. The Freslick's force has got them cut off. I get it, Rogue 9 said. Those clever little scumrots. That must be the annual Pum 1 plant shipment. Freslick's attack force, this is General Bella Bliss of the New Republic, Bella Bliss's voice announced. Please state your intentions. I am Plarks, a thickly accented voice shot back. I speak for the Freslicks. Our intentions do not concern the New Republic. This is a private matter between ourselves and the Sifcrees. I'm afraid I cannot accept that, Bella Bliss said. Any aggression against a New Republic member is our concern. This is not aggression, General Bella Bliss, the phrase continued. We are a delegation come to discuss the Siftree vote on the Drashteen Initiative. There was a pause, Bella Bliss no doubt having someone look up what exactly the Drashteen Initiative was. Corin, what are these palm plants you mentioned? Wedge asked. They're a type of hot world shrub that grows on the system's inner planet, Rogue 9 said. You can get about 8 different exotic medicines and twist that number of food flavorings out of them. Problem is, they have to be processed within 30 hours of picking or they're useless. So that's what the fresh licks are doing, Rogue 7 growled. They don't have to invade anyone or set up a long-term blockade ring. All they have to do is keep these freighters back for a few hours and the Sifcrees are out a bunch of money. Try about 20% of their annual gross product, Rogue 9 put in. We're talking serious economic warfare here. No wonder they sounded panicked when they called. The main channel crackled to life again. Speaker Plarks, this is General Bella Bliss. I've reviewed the Drashteen Initiative, and I see no justification for this kind of confrontation. Then you did not review it closely, the phrase snarled. The Sifgree government cast the deciding vote that prevented our sector's senator from adding his voice to the growing condemnation of the Bothan government and people. The vote was legally taken. The vote was wrong, Plark snapped. To allow the Bothans to escape proper punishment will merely encourage further atrocities like Kamas in the future. The Sifgree government must be made aware of that and given the opportunity to change its vote. A convenient enough excuse, Rogue 2 muttered. He's got a point, though, Rogue 5 said. Heavily wrapped in local politics and blackmail, but a point. I understand your feelings on this matter, Bella Bliss said. But at the same time, we cannot stand by and allow you to interfere with interstellar commerce this way. Untrue, the phrase said. I encourage you to review New Republic regulations on such matters, General Bella Bliss. There was another pause. He's right, Rogue 12 said grimly. This is intrasystem, not interstellar. We can't move in unless and until we get an official invitation to do so. Which means it's all in the government's shockball court now, Rogue 5 muttered. What do you think, Corin? Can they move fast enough to save the plants? I don't know, Rogue 9 said, but I'd be willing to lay odds the Freslicks picked a time to pull this stunt when some key Sifcree official is off planet or otherwise out of touch. There was a click on the private channel. Rogue Squadron, this is Bella Bliss. Commander Horn? Yes, sir, Rogue 9 said. I was given to understand that Booster Terek has some interest in this sector. Is that true? There was just the briefest of pauses. Yes, General, he does. Would those interests occasionally include legitimate shipping? Say, when the need and fees are high enough, such as during the annual Palmwom shipment. There was a longer pause this time. I really don't know, sir, Rogue 9 said, sounding puzzled. I think it's reasonable that they would, Bella Bliss continued. Given that assumption, do you suppose one of those stalled freighters out there might belong to him? And suddenly Wedge understood. The legendary General Bella Bliss was going to pull this one off, all right. Maybe. Do we have IDs on the ships, General? He asked. I'm sending the data across now, Bella Bliss said. Commander Horn, take a look, please. Understood, sir, Rogue 9 said, his voice no longer puzzled. So he'd caught on, too. Yes, that freighter listed as the Sycophant Jolly, over at the far side of the pack? I believe that could actually be the Hoopster's Prank, one of Booster's ships. I see, Bella Bliss said, his voice suddenly heavy with official weight. I recognize your familial relationship with Captain Terek, Commander, and I realize that this is going to be personally painful for you. But you're an officer of the New Republic fleet, and we cannot and will not bend the rules against smuggling for anyone. We understand, sir, Wedge said, pitching his tone to the same seriousness level. Request permission to check out this suspect ship. Permission granted, Rogue Squadron, Bella Bliss said. Be careful not to accidentally engage in Freslick's forces. Understood, sir, Wedge said. Rogue Squadron, form up around me. Kicking power to the drive, he swung the X-Wing away from the Peregrine. Looks like the most direct route to the Sycophant Jolly is right through the middle of the Freslix blockade force, Rogue 8 commented. And we certainly don't want to give them time to dump any contraband while we fly around, Rogue 9 agreed. I guess we'll just have to go through the blockade then, Rogue 2 concluded. Just everyone be careful not to accidentally engage. Very careful, Wedge said. Let's do it. They were halfway to the Freslix forces before the alien commander suddenly seemed to notice what was happening.
General Bella Bliss, what are your starfighters doing? He demanded. You have no legal justification for an attack on my ships?
Your ships are not under attack, Speaker Plarks, Bella Bliss assured him. We've identified one of the freighters waiting beyond your delegation as a smuggler flying under a false ID. By New Republic law, we have both the right and the duty to board any such ship and impound its cargo. It was forever afterward unclear to Wedge just what exactly the Freslix commander thought was going to happen next. Whether he thought Bella Bliss was planning to transfer the perishable cargo from all 100-odd freighters to the Peregrine, or just declare all the freighters suspect and insist that they be escorted down to the planet for a proper search. But whichever it was, he leapt to the wrong conclusion, and the bait, with both hands.
No, Clark shouted. They are not to approach. Do you hear? They will not approach.
You can't stop us, Wedge put in. Move out of the way. We're coming through.
No, the phrase shouted.
There was a jabber of a hissing guttural language, and then the comm abruptly shut off. Wedge took a deep breath, preparing himself. And suddenly the Freslix battle wagons opened fire. Evasive, Wedge snapped, twisting his X-Wing hard to starboard as the laser blast blazed past, one of the shots nearly taking off his upper portside engines. There was another snarl of hissing gutturals, and another salvo of laser fire shot by. Rogues, reform, he called. Return to fleet. Turning his nose farther around, ducking under one final blast of enemy laser fire, he headed back towards the Peregrine. But the Dreadnought was no longer there. It and the rest of the New Republic fleet, reconfiguring into the General's favorite combat formation, were moving decisively toward the Freslix blockade force. Something that sounded like a wheezing squawk came over the comm.
New Republic force, the Freslix commander snarled. What are you doing? You have no right to move against me.
On the contrary, Speaker Plarks, Bella Bliss said, his voice suddenly blade sharp. I have every right. You just opened fire on New Republic spacecraft. Surrender immediately or prepare to be destroyed.
I protest, Plarks gasped. Your ships provoked us into defending ourselves.
Last chance, Speaker, Bella Bliss said. Surrender or face the consequences. There was a snarl of gutturals, and as the rogues reached the Peregrine and curved around again into their positions in the battle formation, Wedge saw that the Freslix ships had abandoned their blockade and were turning their guns to face the oncoming New Republic force. Fleetingly, Wedge wondered if Bella Bliss would be gracious enough to simply hold position in the standoff now that he'd broken the blockade, or if he'd insist on making the Freslix pay for their aggression. Plarks took the decision on himself. In an awesome blaze of laser fire, the two Kruk battle wagons opened fire as the Jomper's pursuit ships leapt forward to meet the incoming X-Wings. New Republic forces, Bella Bliss said coldly. Engage at will.
The Freslix government has delivered a sharp protest to me over your actions a few hours ago.
Admiral Akbar's gruff voice came over the Peregrine's comm speaker.
They claim you launched an unprovoked attack on a peaceful delegation.
Standing a respectful distance from the General's chair, Wedge caught Corran Horn's attention and rolled his eyes in a silent gesture of disgust. The other grimaced in agreement. On the contrary, Bella Bliss told Akbar. They were engaged in a clear violation of free economic movement, besides which they attacked first.
That's not the way the Freslix tell it, Akbar rumbled. They say you clearly overstepped New Republic authority.
I'm sure they do, Bella Bliss said. Do you wish me to stand for an inquiry?
Don't be absurd, General, Akbar said.
And for the first time since the conversation had started, the Moncal's face seemed to Wedge to have relaxed a little.
We need all the good commanders we can get, and I don't doubt the Freslix deserved whatever you delivered to them. You said there was a smuggling ship in among the other freighters.
Bella Bliss glanced up at Corran, who nodded.
Yes, sir. Without question, the General confirmed. One of Booster Terex. The Sifkri authorities have impounded the ship and are checking for contraband. I can imagine the conversation that will take place on the errant venture sometime in the near future, Akbar said, his voice going a little odd. Mon Cal's had a long hatred for smuggling and smugglers, and the Admiral was undoubtedly finding a certain poetic humor in what had happened. Though the justification of your position will be dulled if there was indeed no contraband aboard. The regulations don't care whether the search comes up dry or not, Beloblis reminded him. Or are you suggesting that President Gavrisson might not choose to see it that way? The President is bound by certain diplomatic and political necessities, Akbar said. However, I'm certain that he will read your report on this incident before rendering any judgment. Still, I suggest you cut your patrol circuit short and return to... Abruptly, the signal squealed and vanished. "Com station, what's going on?" Beloblis demanded. "The problem's not on our end, General," a new voice reported. "Looks like the holonet carrier's been cut off." Beloblis threw a look at Wedge and Corin. "Trouble on Coruscant?" he asked the comm officer. "I don't know, sir. I'm checking the other relays." "No, sir, it's not Coruscant. Looks like the relay at Mangini has gone down." "Sir, we're picking up a general alert on the secondary net," a new voice put in. "The relay at Mangini has allegedly come under attack from a small group of, quote, dissident elements, unquote." "Acknowledged," Beloblis said. "Navigation. Plot us a fast course for Mangini. Com, relay the alert to all New Republic forces and bases in the area. Tell them we're going in and request backup reinforcements." He got acknowledgments and turned again to Wedge and Corin. "It looks as if your reports will have to wait," he said. "Get back to your squadron and get ready to fly." "Not good," Corin puffed as he and Wedge jogged down the Peregrine's ventral corridor towards their docking bays. "When they start messing with long-range communications, you know they're getting serious." "We don't have any proof it's this Vengeance group," Wedge pointed out, dodging around a Dracilian crouched over an open access panel. "Maybe not," the other countered. "But I never mentioned Vengeance. You thought of them on your own." Wedge grimaced. "Yeah," he agreed. "I did, didn't I?" "Yes, you did," Corin said. "And you're also thinking that between killing riots, overt interplanetary attacks, and now long-range comm kicking, this has gone way beyond a few zealots protesting Bothan involvement in Kamas." "Yeah," Wedge agreed soberly. "I can hardly wait to see what happens next." That's the end of the chapter. Hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you soon.